Hello, I'm Chip Bloodring, and welcome to today's episode of Infinity Bucket. We are playing a Haunted Hotel. So this is the first in the Haunted Hotel franchise. There's like over 20 some games in this franchise. Unfortunately, this is one that I cannot use the webcam for because if you see right here where my area is in the editor, right here is where the game's scrunched up, and over here is where the webcam sits, and then right here is nothing but black void. So I did record this once before. I think I did like 7 episodes originally, but this is, I think, if I remember correctly, I think this is one game that suffered the channel blip. So there's unfortunately no cutscenes because this is a much older game, but it was a dark and stormy night when I was driving down a dark and windy road, unaware of the ill-fated adventure that was waiting for me. It began in the form of a blinding flash of light that assaulted my senses and sent me veering off the road and into a road sign. Stunned, I crawled from my car with my heart racing in my ears and squinted in the dark to try racing in my ear. I just screwed that up. And squinted in the dark to try to read the sign that I had plowed into. It said hotel 1 mile. And off in the distance behind it, I could see the hotel's warm and inviting glow. The journey to reach it was short, but by the time I thought I saw something good on there. But by the time I stood in the doorway, I was dripping like a soaked dog and feeling much the same. The hotel was very 50s in its design, but at the same time, it looked clean and new in an eerie way. Shrugging it off, I realized that no one was around. The porter or clerk I had hoped would assist me were nowhere to be seen. In fact, no one was around at all. "Hey, is anyone here?" I called out as I peered around a corner, hoping to see a head poke out from a back room. No one answered. At a bit of a loss, I decided to check out the elevator to check the next floor up. Once the elevator stopped moving and opened its door, I strolled down the hall and read the numbers on each floor. As I passed room 2018, I was startled by the sound of a woman's scream. But you can see a visual of what we're doing here. I pressed my ear to the door and tried to listen to the sounds inside, but there was nothing but silence. I pulled at the door handle and discovered that it was locked tight against any jiggle or twist. Concerned, I threw caution to the wind and kicked the door in to reveal the most bizarre room I had ever seen. There was a lantern on the desk with its power turned all the way up, but that couldn't explain the amazing volume of light filling the room. It wasn't until my eyes had adjusted to the lightning that I could see that everything around me was covered in snow. Frost climbed the walls like ivy, and a fresh down of snow covered the floor and furniture. My first thought was that it had to be some special effect. My second thought was that it was time for me to leave quickly. Why isn't there space in between that? I was going to do just that, but a painting hanging on the wall caught my eye and paralyzed me where I stood. It was a picture of a frozen sea, and something about it made the hairs on the back of my neck stand on end with fright. This feeling grew worse when, at the very moment, snow began to fall inside the room. The shock of the whole scene was overwhelming, and would have kept me paralyzed if it hadn't been for a burst of courage from within that overcame my fear and set me into a dead run out the door back to the elevator. I pressed the button to return to the ground floor, expecting a welcome party of show producers and hotel staff be waiting there. Alright, so we got the winter room. Fortunately, these are boarded up. Yeah, I know already. Yeah, I know already. Okay. Yeah, oh my gosh, yes! Yes, I get it! Jeez, so unfortunately, I think up until Haunted Hotel 4 is when they actually made, like, a full story. I think the first three are just like this. So we need a pipe, we need a thermometer, oil can, scarf, Santa, and button. See if I remember what any of these are. It's been a while since I have played this game, so... Alright, so we need the pipe and oil can. Apparently we don't need the pipe because we found... Yeah, this sometimes happens. Sometimes you don't need to find all of them in the list. Oh my god, yes, I get it! Alright, so we can't go to these three rooms right here, so now we gotta go... Oh my god. Click as many energy balls. Funny. Okay, where are they? Come on, hurry up. I don't have all night. What if I just click them as they come towards me? Now in charge, where ropes. Alright, are we able to go? Yes, we are. I like how it shakes whenever you go down. Okay, when the elevator doors opened, I bolted into the corridor and stopped abruptly as I viewed the space around me. I wasn't on the ground floor. The elevator had let me out somewhere totally different. Before I could get inside the elevator doors, the elevator door is sealed and wouldn't open again no matter what I did. The buttons... No matter what I did to the buttons. So after a while, I had to give up and try to get my bearings and find another way out. All of the door numbers here started with the number 3. So it seemed like I was on the 3rd floor, even though that didn't make any sense. I was positive that I had felt the elevator going down. The door to room 3027 was unlocked, so I pushed the door open and slowly crept inside, unsure of what to expect after that first room. There was the same furniture and arrangements in this room as there had been in the winter room. And even though the same machinery and crates, thankfully this room was a lot livelier, in that it looked as though the plants placed around it had been brought in from a meadow out that afternoon. As I looked around, the room began to brighten as if on a spring day, the very air coming alive with bees and seeds drifting in a gentle breeze. A breeze? Where was it coming from? Surely it was coming from a fan. Somewhere in this room, I had dedicated myself to trying to find this mystery fan. I discovered something else, a red cross painted on the wall. My attention was fixed on it, observing the hastily drawn nature that was evident in the 2 quick strokes that had made it. There was also There was another painting here, this time of a blooming orchard in the midday sun. And when I looked closer, I could see that the budding branches were growing up and out of the frame. Suddenly I spotted something staring at me from the end of the hall with some glinting eyes. It took me a moment to realize it, but it was a cat. I crept towards it slowly to keep from scaring it away. But it seemed that just by moving towards, I prompted it to run off into another room. Desperate for the company of another living soul, I ran after the cat without thinking of where it could have been leading me. The room that the cat had run into was different from the previous 2 rooms that I had been in. We weren't in 2 rooms, we were in one. It had twin beds set side by side with a small nightstand between them. Where was the cat? I did see it run out, so it had to be there somewhere, but too well hidden for the likes of me. Turning my search to the halls, I walked all the way up the corridor back to the elevator I started from. Out of futility, I think, I tried pressing the call button, and to my amazement, it worked. It rumbled back to me, and the door sprang open, allowing me to get in and press the button for the ground floor again. It couldn't take me to the same floor twice, I was sure, as it transported me to my next destination. I replayed the events in my mind, wondering about the hotel's lack of staff and guests, and the oddities of the spring and winter rooms. What was going on? My thoughts didn't get very far before they were interrupted by the elevator's bell announcing that it had arrived wherever I intended to abandon me next. Alright, so we got the bridal room and we got the spring room. I can't remember which one I did originally, so let's do the spring. We need A. We need handbasket, ladybug, Easter egg, bread, and rose. I don't remember where any of these might... I'm remembering pretty well, but... Found bread. Alright, the rose. Now we need the egg. This one I might take a hint. Found the egg! Alright, now let's go to the bridal. Can we back? Nah. Alright. We need 3 teddy bears. Really? We need a mask. We need a red envelope. We need rings, champagne, and apple. I love you. We need rings. This one I'm... There we go. So we don't really... Okay, I guess we don't need to find the... See, but the champagne's right there. You see how I did that? We didn't have to find 2 of them. We just... Can we click? Yeah, we can click. Okay, so... Work machine. So we gotta capture the letters. Okay, yes, I get it! Oh, God, just let me play! This one I hated. You gotta be quick. Dang it! Now I just need the E, but that's gonna be... I win! I don't know how many tries it took me the original time to try that. We're unable to go now, aren't we? Aren't we? Now we gotta find energy. I'm gonna do like I did the last time, just stay in one spot. Yeah. I know this is probably not fun to watch because it's not, like, story-driven, but they get more story-driven as the series goes on, trust me. Earthquake! I like how the screen just shakes when you move. Alright. Click on that so I don't have to, wait. The elevator doors open to reveal a man standing on the other side. He was dressed in black with a large gold cross hanging around his neck. The fact that we don't get cutscenes, but we get an illustration of what is going on, is better than nothing, in my opinion. My first thought was that he was a priest, but after the events in the other rooms, I suspected that he was an actor. He didn't seem at all surprised to see me standing there. I thought, though I was certainly surprised to see him. "Hello," he said. He said calmly, staring directly into my eyes. "Where am I?" I asked, too amazed to think of anything else to say. "Are you looking for your room?" he asked, as though he was completely ignoring my question. "Yes, I suppose," I said, though I still wanted to leave. "Shall we go?" he asked. "I'll take you to your room." Well, that was a pleasant turn of events. The priest didn't seem at all like a monster. I don't think priests usually, well, they wear jackets, but I don't think like with the collar turned up. So maybe I had just gotten a little lost. My mood was so improved in his company that by the time we had reached what was to be my room, I had gathered the courage to ask him about the rooms. However, before I could say a thing, he cut me off and said, "You should stay in your room. You should stay in your room to avoid any accidents." "Accidents?" I didn't like the sound of that. "What exactly do you mean?" I asked, wearily, and observed that the stranger's face became very serious as he answered, "Time beyond entity. Time comes, entity remains. I beg you, stay in your room." He warmed up and added, "Besides, it's just for the night. Stay in your room." Something very strange was happening there that was giving me the distinct impression that this priest was trying to not to frighten me before he left me to explore my room. It was very different from all the others in that there was a drum surrounded by candles in the center that looked as if it had been made with an animal hide drawn tightly over it. The whole setup made me think of a shaman. A persistent gleamer around the room brought my attention to the fact that knives were strewn all over the place, while all around me the penetrating eyes of mounted animals stared me down like they were waiting to attack. Suddenly I backed away towards the door, held by the fear that if I turned my back to these creatures, it would be for the last time. I must have been losing my mind. As I made my slow escape, things only got crazier when I was suddenly rocked back by a powerful gust of wind, enough, even though the windows was closed. Finally, having more of this adventure than I can handle, I lost my wits and slammed myself into the door a few times before I remembered that the door opens inwards. Really? Tearing it open, I bolted into the hallway with unnatural gale, slamming the door behind me. But I still wasn't alone. Though the door was shut, the wind seemed to pass through it and follow me out. It was as cold as an Arctic gale, raising goosebumps all the way up my arms as it harassed me. It was getting colder by the moment. Alright, we got shaman and artist. Let's do shaman. So we need star, snake, a red envelope, an axe, a noose, sword, a hanger, and die. Die as in dice. The ambience in this game is terrifying. Oh, that got me. Star and die. Found the store! Alright. We need a shaving brush, seashell, 2 paint tubes, 2 music notes, a keyhole, pink bow, coins, and chalkboard. I'm probably gonna have to handle all these because I don't think I remember what any of these would be. So now we need chalkboard, keyhole, seashell, and shaving brush. What the heck's this? I don't remember what the shaving brush even looked like. Alright, shaving brush. This? No. Shaving brush. And keyhole. Where the heck is everything at? Shaving brush? Yep. And we just needed to find out. We didn't need to find the keyhole, apparently. That's why I never got, like, why did we need to find a full list if we only needed, if only one would be left that we didn't have to find? Puzzle. Place all the puzzle pieces on the faded out board to complete the image. Yes! Okay, I get it! Right click, yes! I get it! Gosh dang it. Here? There we go. I'm gonna do all the corners pieces if possible. It seems like that's the only choice. This goes there. Yep. Or we can just not listen to me. Apparently me don't know what I'm talking about. Alright, it's down to these last three pieces. How does that not go there? Yeah, I was gonna say. God, this was a nightmare. I don't remember it being this annoying. Go. Click in the right spot, you. Alright, we'll go for a little bit longer, then we'll close out the episode. Why aren't we moving? Oh, good luck. Yeah. Hurry up. Okay, so this, and this. That's it? Don't tell me this is over. That was simple. Alright, we'll do maybe a couple more rooms and then we'll close out the episode. After we read a bunch. Earthquake! Yay! I got a sneeze coming. Alright. Give me this. Okay. Knowing the elevator wouldn't take me to the ground floor, but hoping to find a place with an exit, I ran to it and rode it all the way up to another level with the fleeting hope that I had escaped that dreadful gale. I was approaching the first floor door when a chill blasted me from behind, as if the Arctic gale had only been delayed while it waited for a lift to follow me up in. As it chased me down the hall, I read the room numbers and tried their handles, only to be locked out again and again until I reached room number 4036. When the knob turned freely in my hand, I rushed inside, slammed the door behind me, and leaned against it until I was sure I was safe. The room I took shelter in appeared to be filled with film equipment. Cameras, records, and film reels were laying all around. There was also a pile of pictures laying on the table that piqued my interest, so I picked up the stack closest to me and sorted through it. They all seemed to be the same person, a middle-aged man with a mustache that was dressed in classic 1950s attire. There were pictures of him having lunch others of him talking to people, and photos of what seemed to be a mechanical drawing. But one photo caught my attention above the rest. A photo of him talking to the priest. I picked up another stack to look at it, seeing that they were obviously taken with a pinholder camera, hidden in different parts of the hotel. The guest in the room must have been following the man in these photos. I stooped around a bit more until I found an old tape recorder under the bed and a set of reel-to-reel tapes, and then the reel canister. With these items, I was able to set up the old tape player and listen to it. Work on the machine is almost done. Only a simulation of weather conditions remain. Is this really what's going on? It was really weird, but the stone and statue worked just fine. I made a breakthrough in science. Soon mankind will feel that witch's entity develop insubordination for a time and deny all laws of physics that have governed us for so long. A great era is awaiting. Only weather is left. Judging by the point of view and remembering the mechanical drawings I saw in one of the photos, I deduced that the voice from the tape belonged to the man that was being followed. Deep in thought about this, I stared at the table until a notebook that was almost completely hidden under a pile of paper caught my attention. There only were 2 pages in it that had been used at all. But what notes were present were very respected. Psychiatrist takes unconventional direction. Expulsions from the Psychiatric Society. Not allowed to conferences. Scandal and experiments in Germany. Relations with unknown creditors for experiments pursued by the church. When I finished reading it, I stood up and was partially engulfed by the Arctic gale that I thought I had escaped in the hall. Time to go. Alright, we got Biquette, we got Banquet, Spy, and Summer. Let's do Summer. Alright, we need the electric fan. We need chessboard, lizard, elephant, letter, and fowling. Flower pot. Hey. That's creepy. Chessboard. Chest. Oh, come on. That's not what I wanted. Alright, chest, elephant, letter, and flower pot. Danger, high voltage. I don't even know why would that... Okay. Chest, elephant, and flower pot. Flower pot. Stop that noise, dang it. Where is this dang elephant at? See, I knew I'd forget most of this. Now we need the chest and the flower pot. And I guarantee you we find one that we don't have to find any more. Nope, now we gotta find the chest. I'm taking a hint for this last one. That's gonna look like a suitcase to some people. Bonus item. We can find bonus items. Alright, but with that being said, we are going to conclude this episode of Haunted Hotel. Hope you guys had fun, and I'll see you next time on Infinity Bucket.